Retweeting in 3, 2, 1. Retweet. It sends out 2 tweets. I'm not sure why it does that. Need to look into that and kill it. Okay. All right, we ready to kick it off, or? All right.
Retweet.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Good evening, friends and colleagues alike. It is March 5th, 2020, and you're listening to episode 181 of PHP Ugly. I am your somewhat altered host, Eric Van Johnson, and
I was
with
going to say
me
your sleepy host.
is John Condon.
Time for naps.
Time for naps. Also with me, Thomas Rideout.
Hello. I am
So
How
not
are you?
yet altered.
How are you altered, and why are you altered?
I made a little bit of a mistake tonight, and this should be a very interesting show as a result. But I wasn't feeling well this afternoon and decided to take some medication. And on top of the medication, I decided to take some sleep aid. And I took the sleep aid about an hour ago when I realized, damn it, I gotta record a show tonight.
Is this a California-specific sleep aid, like a strain of sleep aid we might have heard of?
No, it's just a PM, over the counter PM pills. I really have challenges with sleeping. And when I'm not feeling well, I'll take some aids to help me sleep. And so,
is that a story we can share?
you know me, man. I'm an open book. Especially in this intoxicated state, I'll pretty much share anything you want to share.
You shared with me earlier this week that you had a sleep study done.
I think I got high score.
Oh, you finally got that done.
I did. And the lady, I'll try to remember the numbers right exactly, but the lady called me back.
Look at Slack channel because you just shared it with me
Uh,
recently.
yes. So the lady called me. She goes, yeah, Mr. Johnson, yeah, I'm calling with your results on the sleep study. And I'm like, okay. She goes, well, let me just put it to you like this. Everybody has little bouts of not breathing per hour when they sleep. So, I had to come home with this contraction that like measured all my breathing stuff as I slept, and I turned it in, and she was calling with the results. So she goes, if that happens, up to 5 times in an hour, that's fine. That's considered normal. If it happens 6 to 15 times, you know what? You have a mild case of sleep apnea. You should have it addressed. If it happens up to 30 times, that's getting pretty serious. I mean, that's a serious case of sleep apnea. We considered 31 to 50 times an hour to be what we call extreme sleep apnea. I'm like, okay, what did I clock in at? She goes, yeah, you clocked in at around 90 times an hour. And I'm like, what? She goes, with
90
your
times an hour? Are you sure that's not just hibernation?
she said your longest episode of not breathing was 62 seconds. I'm like, wow, that math doesn't really work out. She goes, no, it doesn't, does it? She goes, Mr. Johnson, I'm very concerned about you.
According to our charts, you died 3 times.
Oh man! So I was going for a high score on the sleep study, and I might
You're
have
like
achieved it.
Beck's not beating me on this one, damn it.
Oh my goodness! So yeah, I mean we've talked about it in the past about my challenges with sleeping and how I won't share a room with anybody because of my snoring and my my night fits and things like that. So yeah, apparently it's pretty bad. I'm not sure if I'm not around for next couple weeks, you'll know why. But
Because you stopped breathing?
I'm. Oh man.
So, I mean, if I get this right, you could sleep underwater.
Apparently, oxygen is optional for me when I sleep. Yeah.
Say you're
Yikes. Well, I had a similar interesting thing going on. I'm on vacation right now. I'm taking care of my wife because she just had surgery with the ultra cool Da Vinci bot.
Oh, Da Vinci. What's a Da Vinci bot?
The Da Vinci is the one that you saw that like sewed a grape back together and like does little tiny origami and
Oh,
stuff.
right. Yeah, yeah. Oh, is this
So I'm
what was this for her hand?
no, this is a separate issue.
Oh, your
Uh,
wife is so accident prone. Not that the authorities should investigate that or anything.
I I know, I know. The insurance companies are starting to get curious. But so I'm home for 2 weeks, just doing the thing, taking care of her, taking care of the kids, and it's
I
it's
mean,
been a very nice to not have work.
can I
And
raise my hand for a second? I mean,
sure,
aren't you always home?
I'm always working when I'm home. Like
Okay.
even when I get off work, I'm working. I'll take calls at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night.
Because you have a big
Um,
time difference with your home base, I know.
I do, and I was the first really remote employee, but that was 7 years ago. We now have 3 or 4 primarily remote employees,
Mhm.
um, even to the point where they're overseas.
Mhm.
So we have employees that are working, that start working when I get off work, and I'm assisting them throughout the day and what have you. So, I'm really, I've been burning the candle at both ends for a while, and just knowing that everyone knows I'm not coming to my computer when called
Mhm.
has been a extraordinarily relieving over the last 2 days, where it's just I'm not checking Slack, I'm not checking email, I'm not working, and it's been very nice. Although I am working quite a bit because I'm doing all of the jobs my wife used to do and taking care of her as well. She's not really walking much, so it's a dual purpose vacation slash medical leave.
Mhm.
But she'll be much better in 2 days, and I have until next Monday off. I have 2 weeks off basically,
Mhm.
so I'm gonna have a nice bout of vacation time, just me time.
That's
That
cool.
sounds nice.
You,
Any
Which
you,
any updates on your other potential thing?
nothing yet. Uh, I did receive an email that said that things are being looked at and that I'll be contacted soon, but uh, no, nothing new from last week. I don't think.
I don't think.
I as far as I can remember.
It's been that specific strain that kills that part of your memory, right?
It's been a long week since we last recorded. I'm not sure if you guys have noticed, but oh my god, it's just everything is happening all at once with the Super Tuesday, of course.
Mhm.
Big deal for me because I was, voting in Super Tuesday. You guys did too.
Yeah.
And
Did you actually make it out? I know you were talking about it.
yeah, no, I got my vote out in there.
I was asking Eric. He actually made it.
I did
Oh,
not. No, did not make it out.
well, it's okay. We got who we wanted anyways.
Yeah, Biden pretty much had that one locked down,
No, he
especially
got
here.
California.
Especially here, yeah.
Or, Bernie got California.
Bernie got
Yep.
California.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh,
Did.
and
okay.
Colorado.
Is it? It's like a two-person race now, right?
Uh, Unofficially, it's a two-person race. There is still a I think Klobuchar or somebody is still not saying that they're dropping out.
Mm.
Um, I don't know why, but everyone else has dropped out. It's basically Biden and Bernie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but
It'll be
I mean, we're
interesting.
only a quarter of the national votes are taken in so far. We've still got March 10th and then March 12th, and so it's going to be another long week of political maneuvering.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the coronavirus stuff.
Coronavirus. Like I said, I wasn't feeling good earlier, and it wasn't the coronavirus. It's funny,
That thing's pissing me off right now.
the
Go ahead.
coronavirus.
Yeah.
Why is that?
My wife and I, 20-year anniversary this year. So we were trying to make plans to go on an international trip, which we haven't done since our honeymoon, and that was just a cruise to the Caribbean. So it's gonna be our first time really going overseas, and we wanted to go to Italy. So we start making all these plans for Italy, and just before we actually buy the tickets, yep, Italy's a no-go zone.
Yeah, I actually saw a tweet today that said, I don't know if it's true, but it said that Italy is closing down all its sporting venues. So the teams are still going to play, but the fans are not going to be allowed to attend the sporting events for the next
Yeah.
30 days.
Yeah, Japan's the same way, and Italy just closed down all the public schools and universities too.
That's crazy. And
Well,
you were talking about working remotely. Microsoft even announced that they're they're allowing their employees to work from home. I guess they're not typically a remote company, but they're
right.
allowing their people to work from home in hopes to kind of curb any issue with the coronavirus.
Yeah, and we just got 2 cases here in Colorado. You guys have a case in Los Angeles, and
Hmm.
apparently an airport screener in LA was uh, diagnosed. And there's so much bad information out there about this. I saw somebody on Facebook saying, well, why don't we worry about the flu the same way? The flu's killed 18,000 people this year. And so I ran the numbers for him. And if the flu had the same uh, rate of infection in the United States or if the coronavirus had the same rate of infection in the United States as the flu, that would mean 500,000 deaths in 2 months. And it's like, people don't understand. Like, people are freaking out and they're buying all the toilet paper and rubbing alcohol they can find, but they're not paying attention to the reality of what they need to do.
Yep.
But every conference is closed, like
Yeah.
every conference.
Google I/O just announced that they're canceling Google, which is a huge conference for them.
Yeah.
Google I/O is a massive conference, one of the best in the business actually, and they announced that they're canceling. Um,
Uh,
and then
Mobile World Congress.
on top of the coronavirus, Memphis, which is hosting PHP Tech in a couple months, got hit with tornadoes, killing. I mean, I don't know what the count is
A
up to
hundred.
now. Over 100.
It's up to 100.
Yeah, over 100.
Wow.
Wow. So I'm really worried whether or not that conference is even going to happen at this stage. To be honest
I
with you.
Yeah, everything is up in the air. It's very people are rightfully scared and thankfully taking measures.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Are you sure it's 20? I'm seeing 25 people as of 36 minutes ago.
yeah, I saw 100.
That does seem
But
high.
if you're looking,
I hadn't seen over 20 myself. So
That's yeah. At least
tornadoes.
the few things I'm seeing is 25 right now.
okay,
Yeah.
so it's been revised from 77 down to 24.
It wasn't Memphis. It was Nashville, right? Nashville.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Nashville.
Yeah. Hoping it's not affected. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, I felt
Well,
bad for that. I mean, or yeah, 25 lives, including 5 kids. Um, are tornadoes even common in that area? We were looking pretty hard at
oh
moving
yeah,
to uh, the Nashville, Memphis area for a while, and I don't remember coming across any of this information.
That's
uh, I was in Knoxville and they had tornado alarms, so I don't think it's too uncommon.
Oh, it does look like there is this piece of the article that says among the dead are at least 5 children in Putnam County, which suffered the greatest human toll. At least 18 people died in the county and 88 were injured. So maybe that's where you're getting your 100 from, the injured.
Yeah, that might be it.
Well, okay.
So everything's up in the air right now. I mean, if you're signed up for a conference, you've got to keep your eyes on whether or not it's actually going to happen.
Yeah, for sure. And whether or not you actually want to go, I mean, airports sound like a horrible place to be right now.
Yeah.
Do like working from home? That's for sure. I've been actually doing more of that myself.
Interestingly enough, I was reading an article by Phil Sturgeon about remote work as a climate action. Is that remote work significantly impacts your carbon footprint?
Sense. You're not driving every day. I mean, when I had to go to an office, which was probably the furthest distance from my house I would travel to on a regular basis, I had to do it every day, and that would be the only reason I would be driving that day would be to and from work. So, without having to drive to work every day, I save a ton in gas, and I can only imagine what I save in what I'm producing.
The time that we save not having to drive is.
I don't know why Siri.
Because.
I lost you guys. I can't hear you guys now because Siri took over my headphones.
Perfect.
Those devices. I swear I feel like I should get rid of them, but they are so convenient.
I love these headphones. They're noise canceling and they connect up to 2 devices. But for some reason, when my iPad takes over the headphones, it won't release them. So the iPad takes over the headphones, and then it won't give it back to my laptop. Drives me nuts.
Even if you can turn the iPad off then, right? Or what about just turning Bluetooth off?
You have to turn Bluetooth off because if you close the iPad, it just assumes you want the iPad closed and stays connected with the headphones. Yeah. Oh. All right. Anybody doing any coding this week? Anything fun to talk about?
Been doing sprint planning.
Yeah, tell us about sprint planning, man.
Sprint planning? That doesn't sound like DiegoDev.
John and I, one of our clients, John and I were in the office together this week, and we were probably there for 3-4 hours and said like maybe 5 words to each other because he was in sprint planning all day long. Please explain.
Really?
So, our client early this year, decided they're going to start doing these 6-week sprints. And the first one went pretty well, and they're going to keep doing it. But it is so time consuming. Because they're trying to do such a big sprint, 6 weeks, they have a ton of tasks. They have 3 big features they want to add, and then getting 10 of us into a room trying to groom the task as well as break it down into small tasks and estimate it is just so time consuming.
That was the other thing that surprised me is how big that team is now. I saw on your screen you guys look like you're doing a Zoom, or I'm not sure what the meeting thing was, but everybody was sharing their cameras, and man, that team, and they're all developers. All these people developers.
All but one. One is a product owner. So she's basically running the sprint and saying what the business wants.
That seems like too many devs. That seems like you need a scrum master in there or something to disseminate.
Yeah, probably. Would probably be a good idea. But because of the success, because of the success that I feel we had on that first sprint, it's something I would like to introduce with some of our other clients, as far as like our biggest client by far, we have the least amount of control over the projects we work on, and they seem to shotgun tickets like we want to work on this and that, and it's like it's just too much. There's no clear direction, there's no focus, and it's just nonstop work. Where the idea behind these 6-week sprints is you're you're highly focused on these very specific tasks. At the end of that 6 weeks, there's a 2-week cooldown that you can pick up other tasks, work on something that is a little lighter, possibly finish up anything you missed in the first one, bug fixes, that type of thing, and prepare for the next 6 weeks. But having that focus, to me, has been beneficial.
Well, I could see how with the clients, that would be really nice to have expectations for a period of time clearly laid out, so that so that they know that if they butt in with a feature request in the middle of a sprint, that it's going to interfere with all of the work that you've already laid out.
Well, and one of the nice things about this project that John's referring to, it's the client that's running the sprint. Like we've tried to do something similar with other clients, where we're trying to run the sprint, and again, it was the same issue where the clients just decided they wanted to prioritize something different. It's like, well, wait, we're trying to focus on this one thing. Well, no, you don't understand. We have to have this feature done now.
Yeah, that is
Right.
definitely beneficial. And the other big thing is working closely with a specific team of people, where in the past, this client, everyone's kind of been on their own. It's like, okay, you're going to build this feature, someone else is going to build that feature, and it's just kind of, you're on your own island for a period of time. You can ask for help and that thing, but to actually work together cohesively, it has been beneficial as well.
And
There's a lot more interaction.
thought it was pretty interesting the way you guys like tasks aren't assigned. I mean, my understanding of it was that tasks aren't assigned; they're just put in a queue, and then people go in there and grab their task or grab a task and start working on it.
Yeah, I forget where they got a free ebook from. I think Basecamp put it out that laid out how they do it, so they're trying to mimic that to a point. But the 6 weeks is broken down into 4 priority queues, and you're free to pick any task you want, but you should be sticking with the top priority that's not completed. So you start with your P1s, or your first priorities. If there's nothing in there you can really work on that your skill set is good at, or you're blocked by something, you can dip into P2, but you shouldn't go any further until P1 is finished. So the first priority is either the biggest task, it should be the most concerning about getting done within that sprint time, or the most business opportunity, the biggest bang for your buck. Get those done and then work on other stuff for the rest of the time. But it does lead to a lot of freedom of, I can go in and pick the things that I think I would be good at. Maybe it's a section of code I've touched before that I now get to enhance, or make do a refactor so that I can build another feature on top of it.
Are you allowed to grab multiple tasks, or can you only grab one at a time?
There's been no discussion on that. I think I had a bunch of tasks. Like I knew I was working on this section of a feature, even though we broke it down into a bunch of tasks. It was still going to be my thing, so I grabbed a bunch of them early on.
Yeah, that's cool when it works.
Yeah.
It would be nice to have something more like that.
Yeah, we need to talk to our peeps about that, about trying it. Like that focus piece is the one I keep going back to.
I mean, well, and that's what I keep hearing. I think that's one of the challenges we have a lot with clients is that focus. It's they're having a clear, articulated goal has been kind of a challenge on some of our projects, and yeah, yeah, I don't know. It'd be nice. It'd be nice to come up with that formula.
Yeah. And I got one more story before you tell yours, Thomas. Before this call, I decided to do a little free DiegoDev work. Why not?
Free, pro bono.
Pro bono.
What
There's
did you do?
actually so there's a guy I met in my local Vaughn's parking lot, a local grocery store, and
Oh,
he was walking
what?
past me a year ago. Got
It's gonna make some snide comment because that's a weird way to start a story.
well, okay. I'm standing outside my car and I have an SD PHP license plate, so he saw that and
Ah,
started talking to me, asking me more about it, and had a nice little conversation with him. He actually came to the office and met Eric and I a couple of times, and so I keep thinking there's going to be some business there. And last year, they they hit me up and like, hey, we need this. Our SSL cert expired. Our previous developer is no longer here. Can you help us? And it took me 10, 15 minutes, so I'm not going to charge them for that time. I want to show one that I understand AWS. I know how SSL certs work. So I feel like I'm showing expertise, and when they actually need help, they're going to come to us and actually pay us. But that hasn't happened yet, and here we are 7 months later, and they're like, oh, by the way, remember the SSL cert you did? Well, we need it on this other server as well, and we'll pay you for your time. And I'm like, again, it's 10 minutes. I'm not, what am I going to charge you to throw an SSL cert on a load balancer? So I did that today, and then they kept saying, hey, it's still not working. I go and I look, and it's like, oh, your Node app died. Let me restart that. Hey, it's all working now. It's like, all right, I really got to start clocking this and sending some sort of invoice.
it sounds like you need a way to clock it though. Like you need a way to handle one-off 10-minute jobs.
No such thing as a 10-minute
Yeah,
job. 2 hour minimum. That's my
yeah.
my feel.
I mean, in a normal circumstance, I would be in agreement. Like I'm gonna bill some sort of minimum, but again, I'm trying to woo this client into a bigger contract at some point. That's the goal. Do a little free work now, hoping it pays off in the long run.
What you got for us,
All right,
Thomas?
Thomas,
You,
sorry.
you got anything?
Well, I actually haven't seen a lot about this. I only know about it because I was looking through some stuff on Twitter a couple days ago. But there's been an issue with Let's Encrypt. I'm not sure if you guys caught this.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yes, I did.
we we AWS has been sending out warning notifications and all sorts of fun stuff.
You know how many you know how many domains were affected?
What,
Uh,
140,000?
no, I'm talking about for our client because I know the client I work on, 1,650 domains
Oh my God.
they had to go and renew.
Yeah. I don't know. We got the notifications because I guess AWS was using Let's Encrypt to do their certs on the database servers, the RDS servers. Now that you
Mhm.
mention it, I didn't even think about the. Didn't even occur to me the web servers. I wonder if I have most of them set up to auto renew though. So I'm wondering with the auto renew, it typically checks every day if it needs to renew. I wonder if
I
the
was
auto.
slightly off on my numbers. It's 3,048,289 certificates are affected,
Mm.
um, which is bad.
Well,
That's
we're
a
gonna
very
find out
bad number.
tomorrow, I guess, right? I mean, it wasn't today
Uh,
the last day.
today, what? Yeah, today was. Well, today was the update, the latest update. The revocation started yesterday, and today they've notified us that 1.7 million have been replaced and revoked. There are a million whose status is unknown or not replaced, and a million were duplicates of other affected certificates. So
That's
that's.
nuts.
Do you know what the origin of this issue is?
I do not, and was actually very surprised to see it. Do you?
I can read it. Our certificate authority software, Boulder, checks for certificate authority A records at the same time it validates a subscriber's control of a domain name. Most subscribers issue a certificate immediately after domain control validation, but we consider a validation good for 30 days. That means in some cases, we need to check CAA records a second time just before issuance. Specifically, we have to check CAA within 8 hours prior to issuance. So any domain name that was validated more than 8 hours ago requires a rechecking. So it sounds like they weren't rechecking things when they were supposed to. It doesn't sound like it was any kind of vulnerability that was taken advantage of or a hack or anything like that. There are laws that regulate how domain names or how domain certificates are managed. There are rules as a certificate authority that they have to follow, and it sounds like they realized they had been breaking the rules, and in order to maintain their authority, they have to revoke certificates. So it really looks like a red tape issue.
Well, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see over the next couple of days who all gets impacted. I didn't even think about I didn't think about the damn web servers. Now that you say that, John.
Well, you would have gotten an email, or however it's set up. That person would have gotten an email.
Yeah, it's true. You would think, right?
Yeah. So something to look at, but I don't think it's
overly concerned about it. Yeah, because you do have
unless
to actually register your email is actually registered with the certificate when you request it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it's so easy to overlook those emails too, because you probably get a ton of them. Not you, but the generic you. So it's easy just to archive. I'm done.
The other thing.
Go ahead.
One of my things I want to do on my time off is write. And my first article I want to write is about how Laravel does Semver. And I've been very fortunate because yesterday Laravel 7 was released.
Laravel 7 was released.
And boy, does it not follow Semver. Again.
Why do you say that? I thought we had determined that there was a backwards breaking change that justified the 7.
Nope. If you read the release notes from Laravel News, they state clearly that I'll quote this. We'd like to point out that starting with version 6, Laravel now follows Semver and will release a new major version every 6 months. So that sentence on its own contradicts itself. Just by saying every 6 months is a new major version means it's not Semver. The time has nothing to do with it. The Semver doesn't care about time. Something can be 20 years old and still be version 0.12987. It doesn't matter. And I've looked into what has changed, and there are definitely packages that did not see backwards breaking changes that have been upgraded to Laravel 7.0 and then 7.1. To the point,
even the Symfony core stuff
stuff that's not related to Symfony, stuff like the cookie handler and things like that. To the point where the Illuminate cookies, which is the library you would reference if you were extending the cookie package for Laravel, 7.0 and 7.01 have the same commit hash on the tag. And that is obviously not correct. If you've got the same commit hash, it can't be a new version. It's the same exact version, very literally. And I find it interesting that Laravel News has said, now Laravel is Semver and there's going to be a new version every 6 months, because this idea of what Semver is just not being properly communicated down the line. That developers are being told Semver is something that it is not. And the big change in 7, the biggest change, is upgrading to Symfony 5 from 4.
I only see 7. I don't see a 7 one. I just see 7 in the
So
release
you're
date.
looking at you're looking at the framework, the
Uh,
Laravel/Laravel release.
You're right. I
I,
am.
I'm looking at the Illuminate repository, which
Yeah.
is the repository for referencing when you're developing a package.
Gotcha. You're absolutely right. In to that, I do know I saw at least I saw 701 come out as well.
Yeah, and I've done Git comparisons and looked at what's actually different, and there isn't a significant difference, and definitely not a backwards breaking difference on some of these packages.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, the thing I noticed is that these individual component packages do not have their own test suites.
Mm.
The Laravel itself has a test suite as a framework as a whole, but the individual components don't have their own test suites, from what I've seen. And that's an issue to me as well, because a test suite is the way I would check if backwards compatibility broke or not.
Yeah, I don't know if it's worth writing anything up over, but I get what you're saying. I mean, in a day they're going to manage it however they want to manage it. There's there are rules behind Simver, but they're not a strict. If you don't do it this way, the version police are going to come and get you. I mean, we even hear that with versions of PHP being released as well. That they're pretty loose with the whole adhering to Simver with PHP as well. So I don't know.
Well, I can tell you that Spady, who runs a huge number of Laravel extension packages, tweeted out that he had updated a massive amount of his repositories to support 7.0. And I can guarantee you most of that work was just changing the config JSON
The
to 7 from 6.
composer,
Or yeah, the
composer.
composer JSON.
Yeah, probably.
And that's a pain in the ass. That's something that shouldn't have to be done if there's not a breaking change. And if you're a package maintainer, you don't want to have to change your package every 6 months because the number changes in one spot in one file.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in this case, going from 6 to 7, the backwards breaking change is composer.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's irritating for the tens and thousands of packages that are on Packagist. Let alone I have to do an upgrade on my system to 7.0, and all of our internal packages have to support 7 now. So all the unpublished packages that people have to write for work have to get upgraded as well.
Mm.
It's just an enormous pain in the ass, and it's totally unnecessary. And to have it on a 6-month schedule where it's a guaranteed pain in the ass every 6 months is even more unnecessary.
The schedule thing, I think, is the only thing I take real exception with. Like you said, you shouldn't be scheduling major releases. And I don't know if that's what he's doing. I understand you mentioned that's what Laravel News said, but I don't I don't think that's necessarily what he's doing because he made mention of that in Laracon last year. Now, the way he referenced it in Laracon was, "Hey, don't be surprised if we release 6 and then 3 months later we're releasing 7 because I had to there was some sort of backwards breaking change." I mean, he was kind of preparing people with more rapid major releases. Um,
Well, the official release notes state that February and August are the major version release days.
yeah,
So
they
every
can
six
get away with
major
that.
framework releases are released every 6 months, about February and August. That's
Yeah.
the official.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's that. I take exception to that. And I had even talked about, or we had talked about it on this podcast. I've talked about it with other people. Is I would actually like to see him queue up some backwards breaking changes before doing a major release. Like, don't do a major release because you want to change one component that's going to, quote unquote, be a backwards breaking change. queue a couple of those bad boys up and then do a major release like what a major release is supposed to be.
Or just break something on purpose. Why not?
Or there's always that. There's always that. Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't realize this was going to break anything. Sorry about that. I guess this should have been
Sure.
a major upgrade.
Just get in bed with Laravel Shift and have the shift all ready to go before you even put the
Oh,
change out there.
JMac's got to be loving life, man. This first thing, the the major, I mean, the major upgrades are getting easier and easier. So
Then why is he living life? That's how he's
But
making money.
well,
they're getting easier and easier because they're not major upgrades.
because people just go to shift now. I mean, people don't even think about it. And I've actually gotten lazy. So I'm working on a little side project that even John doesn't know about. But I've been working on a little side project, and I just started it about a week ago, or a little over a week ago. Either way, like you said, 7 just came out. So I just newed up just another Laravel project and moved my controllers and stuff over. I didn't even try to do an in-place upgrade. I just newed up a new project, moved a little bit of code I had over, and yeah, started fresh. But
When do,
yeah,
when do I get to learn about this project?
I'll tell you about it tomorrow. It's not a big deal. It's just something I've been wanting for a while, and I don't know. I've just been kind of hacking away at things. I'll tell you about it. It's cool though. It's gonna have a cool domain. Um,
Okay.
but man, I've been working on. Huh, I've been in like a Groundhog Day nightmare for the last 2 weeks. We have
Okay.
one of our clients. They have a vendor they deal with that's very high level security. Like everybody who works in the environment, they have to take these tests and pass these tests. And John and I had to get fingerprinted, and I mean, it's like they're very, very protective of this environment, and it's it's not technically government, but it kind of is government. It's one of these kind of third party sort of things. Anyways, to do any work in this environment is troublesome because you have to VPN into this environment. You can't just connect your tools. Just pulling from Git isn't always simple. So you VPN and fortunately I'm still pretty good with Vim, so it's not that bad for me to debug. And we had done John and I had done a bunch of refactoring to the code base like months ago, and I've been trying to deploy and debug issues with it. And every day we kind of go around in circles where all of a sudden the network doesn't work at all. I mean, there's no network connectivity between my test environment and their test environment. And it's always the same thing. Well, your application's broken. No, I haven't touched the application. Well, you've got a firewall. No, I have no firewall. And as a matter of fact, the service is all yours. You control all that. And there's just this round and round and round, like every day of nothing working and them having to just troubleshoot and oh man, it is exhausting. And the funny thing about it is, I've been on the other side of this argument where I've known it was the developer. Like I used to run an ops group, and the developers would come to us and say, "Our application broke." And it's like, "Well, you just did a deployment. Could the application be broken?" "Nope, it works fine on my laptop." "Well, shit, your laptop isn't anything. It's not production. It's not load balance. It's not this. It's not that." And 9 times out of 10, it was always the application. And so I can appreciate where they're coming from, but I'm like, listen, I know networks, I know computers, I know all the excuses, and I'm telling you, the biggest defense I have is I'm not touching anything, I'm not changing anything. It shouldn't stop working overnight. Oh, it's so frustrating. I hate,
So
I hate.
this time it's their ops team telling you it's the developer, and you're like, no, I'm the developer. It's not me.
Exactly. I hate not having control over the network. It feels you feel so crippled. It's like It's not my stuff, and I'm pretty sure if you let me touch your system, I can figure it out.
They did finally admit that it was their firewall on their side, right?
Well, yeah. So on Monday, I literally would not hang up with them until we figured it out, and we were on the call with. I was on the call with them for over 9 hours. When they finally conceded, "Hey, this was totally our fault. We're sorry. We apologize. We fixed it," and we confirmed it was fixed. It was like, "Holy crap!" I sent a request. They saw it. They sent a request. I saw it. Of course, it didn't work. Hence the debugging I've been trying to do. And then, of course, on Tuesday, we're in meetings all day, so I didn't get a chance to call them. Something happened yesterday, and I didn't get a chance to call. I was working with on another project yesterday, and didn't get a chance to call him. Call him this morning, and all of a sudden, way back to square one, where I can't even send them a request. So the whole cycle goes: I send them a request, they do some processing, they send me a response. That's the whole process. And typically, me sending them a request hasn't been the problem. Where that piece has been working, but they haven't been able to send me a response. And then, as of this morning, I couldn't even send them a request. So we're like back to square one. It's exhausting. And of course,
That's why we get paid.
they're not the client. They're a vendor of the client, but they're not the client. And so the client is just getting frustrated. I mean, they don't know who to be mad at. I mean, they kind of have a hint just based on history who's slowing down the process. So I've been pretty
Us.
fortunate. I've been pretty fortunate with that. And the other good thing about it is this other group. I have to hand it to them. They're very diligent at uh, logging emails of every call that comes in, what the discussion was about, and what the resolution was. And that actually gets sent to the client. So I think that's what's been kind of saving my hide is that the client has seen like these constant updates of, yes, Eric called today. We tried to he tried to debug. Our environment wasn't working. This was the cause. We figured it out. We fixed it. We're ready for you to debug again.
That is nice. I would appreciate that too.
I actually appreciate it a lot. I wish I was more diligent about even updating tickets. I like the same client has their own ticketing system that's outside the scope of the tools that DiegoDev uses, and I just despise logging into it and updating tickets because first thing I don't like the system that much. It's a pain in the ass, clunky legacy system, and then and then and then I'm lazy. That's the other that's the other side of that coin. To be honest.
Well,
Yet we expect all of our developers that work on it to log in and update their tickets.
Absolutely. What the hell did
yeah,
you pay those guys for?
that's the perks of being a boss. We
That's like we make them do that. We make them do that stand up Alice Thomas that I know you love every day, and
oh God.
I'm just waiting for one of them to ask why don't we do them? I'm like because they suck. I don't want to
Well,
do them. Shit.
well, the funny thing is when we told them they had to do it, I went in and added myself so I could see what they go through. And the next day, I'm like, I never got a response from it.
Uh
Eric's like,
huh.
oh yeah, I removed you.
Yeah, because you know how stand up Alice works, Tom. Is it sends a little notification saying, "Hey, give me an update of what you did yesterday."
Oh yes.
And I really should.
No,
I
it's
should
it's
fix
a
that myself.
terrible interface. A.
Well, it's Slack. What do you mean? I mean, it's
No,
just.
I mean like so we get a weekly stand up Alice that's like, what did you work on this week? What are you working
Mm-hmm,
on next week?
mm-hmm.
And so many weeks I'm working on the same thing. So I'm just typing one word and hitting enter and typing another word and or the same word and hitting enter. And it's like thumbs up. And it's not helpful at all for me. It's
You know what? I'm going to tell you something, and I hate to admit this. Well, no, I don't hate to admit it. As the person using that information, it's extremely helpful for me because we only do weekly meetings with the dev team,
oh, we have it
and
every morning.
Yeah, well, we don't. Well, see, if you have it every morning, I don't know why you're doing stand-up Alice.
No, stand-up Alice is the thing we have every morning.
Oh, right, right.
Yeah.
So we have stand-up Alice every morning, and then we have a weekly call, which I don't even bother the team with what they reported on stand-up Alice. I just say, hey, I noticed you worked on this. I noticed you worked on that. The only time I bring it up is if I notice that they've been working on a ticket for like 2 or 3 days. I'm like, okay, you seem stuck on this ticket. Is everything okay? But for me, it's very beneficial. I wish Stand Up Alice would actually give me the responses as a feed that I could then use like Zapier or something, or even write something to consume it with better, because now I have to go into logs, I have to look at everybody's individual and say, okay, they did this, and I actually copy it over to another form, so when we're in our meeting, it's easy for me to look at. But if your boss is using it correctly, it's very beneficial.
He might be. I just hate it.
Yeah, I get that. I'm the same way. I don't like doing it, but I love having it done, and seeing what everybody's doing. And I noticed when we made everybody employees, we switched from this toggle time tracking system to Gusto, which is the platform we use, and we have a code for Gusto if you want to use Gusto. I'll put it in the show notes. Um, but Gusto has its own time tracking, and I noticed like everybody but one or two developers stopped using Stand Up Alice, and it was kind of the same thing. It's like, oh well, with Toggle, we put our time towards the projects we were working on or the tickets we were working on, and Gusto is not as granular. So it's kind of harder to remember. Oh, what did I do yesterday? Whereas in Toggle, I would just copy and paste, and we're like, okay, that makes perfect sense. But could you could you not? Could you please do? And I think the consensus among the developers were, okay, well, if you really want me to do stand up Alice, then I'm just going to go back to using Toggle and just copy my time from Toggle into Gusto, which also made sense as well.
Except I was looking forward to getting rid of an expense of Toggle,
Yeah.
but oh well.
Toggle's, of all the things we use, I think Toggle's one of the cheaper services we use.
I got another service that we're using that I'm paying for to pay one person, but whatever.
Is he a Canadian?
He is.
I think I think I know
Those,
who it is.
those Canadians.
What service
Uh
is
huh.
that?
Bill.com.
Oh, right, because we can't do that through Gusto. Oh, man, just put them on PayPal.
I I thought about it, but the fee, actually I don't think there's fees for him. There's fees for our other overseas developers,
Yeah.
but because it's a US address, I think it's free.
Just tell him to move back here
I don't know.
if he wants to keep his job.
Living in, he doesn't need universal health care anymore. We'll offer him health care. I mean, he has to pay for it, of course, and it wouldn't be as good, but it's health care.
So
I mean,
going
come
back
on.
to
What are the chances some pandemic virus is going to take over the world? I mean, seriously. What? I'm so tired right now. Oh my gosh.
I could tell. Going back to Laravel 7,
We're
one of the
wrapping
things
up anyway.
we had talked about was ZTTP.
Mhm. Yes.
And
Which is
I
not
don't
a protocol.
I don't know if you saw, but ZTTP was not included in Laravel 7.
It absolutely was.
No.
What are you talking about? No.
No.
We had
He
this
read it as
conversation.
HTTP. He read it as HTTP.
It is an all new HTTP client that was contributed to by Adam Wathan, Jason McCreary, and Taylor. So all three of them, now Adam Wathan being the one who had created ZTTP in the first place, all got together and created a fully functional HTTP client. So this thing wraps almost all functionality of Guzzle and handles a huge amount of stuff in what is a much simpler interface. It is very nice. So it includes a lot of the work that ZTTP did, but it appears to be a whole new thing.
No, I think if you read, I mean, everything I read says that it's basically ZTTP with some new added functionality tacked onto it. So,
Well, I don't think it's
I
sub though.
disagree
I
with
think it's
you.
a large amount of new functionality. Handling for bearer tokens and authentication, retries, file uploading, faking responses for testing, error handling, header management, multi-part requests, lots and lots and lots of new functionality. I mean, just the documentation page is 3 times longer than the ZTTP one is. So it's definitely a much larger undertaking than ZTTP was.
Well, still, it includes a HTTP client. We're all happy.
Yes, that wraps around Guzzle. So
That
yeah,
wraps
we're all
around
happy.
Guzzle. Yeah, that's the big thing.
The other big thing is there's been a blade tagging and component changes and custom eloquent casting. And I think we talked about airlock a while ago. So that's included now. One of the interesting things for me is the fluent string operations. So there's been the string helpful change